After 25 years of driving long-haul rigs across the country, there wasn't much that could surprise a man like Mark. When you spend decades watching white lines blur beneath your windshield, you learn patterns. You learn how storms announce themselves, how engines whisper before they fail, how people, especially men, telegraph trouble long before it arrives. Mark had driven through black ice in Wyoming, through deserts where heat warped the horizon, through nights so quiet the radio felt intrusive. Life on the road teaches you discipline, routine, and one unshakable belief. If something feels off, it probably is. But on the evening of December 23rd, the danger didn't come from weather reports or traffic warnings. It came from his own front porch. Christmas lights blinked softly against fresh snow. Inside, the house smelled like roasted meat, cinnamon, and memory. His wife moved between the kitchen and dining room with practiced ease. His daughter laughed, her voice lighter than it had been all year. This was supposed to be a safe night, a sacred night. Then came the knock. Mark opened the door and saw his daughter's boyfriend standing there. 19 years old. Awkward smile. Hands shoved into jacket pockets like a child waiting to be told where to sit. They'd met before. Enough times for Mark to believe the kid was decent. The boy stepped inside, shrugged off his jacket, and the room changed temperature instantly. Comma. Printed across his chest were 5 words. Crude. Sexual. Aggressively disrespectful. Not random profanity. Not shock humor. This was targeted. Mark didn't react right away. That was the dangerous part. His instincts went quiet. His breathing slowed. Truckers learn to do that when things go bad. When panic makes mistakes more likely. He scanned the room. His wife froze mid-step. A fork clinked against a plate and then went silent. His daughter's face flushed, not embarrassment yet. Confusion. And the boy avoided eye contact. That told Mark everything. This wasn't ignorance. This wasn't poor taste. This was a decision someone had already regretted. Mark didn't shout, didn't lecture, didn't humiliate him in front of the family. Instead, he reached into his wallet. Slowly, deliberately, 2 $20 bills. Folded once. He placed them into the boy's open palm, closed the fingers around them. Then he opened the door again. You have 15 minutes, Mark said calmly. Walmart's still open. Find a respectful shirt, or don't come back. The cold rushed in. The boy nodded. And just like that, he was gone. Mark stood there for a moment longer than necessary, listening to the quiet. He believed the matter was simple. A lapse in judgment. A teachable moment. He didn't know this was only the surface. He had just pulled a thread, and the fabric underneath was rotten. To understand why a 19-year-old would risk humiliation, rejection, and shame, you have to look at who was standing behind him. The older brother, 21 years old, varsity soccer star, popular in ways that seemed effortless. Teachers described him as a leader. Coaches called him a natural. Extended family bragged about him at holidays. He was the story everyone wanted to tell. And from a very young age, he learned a dangerous lesson. Attention is power. Once you have it, you can bend people with it. The younger brother grew up in that shadow. While one boy brought home trophies, the other brought home sketches. While one was loud and physical, the other was quiet and observant. And every comparison, spoken or not, carved the same message deeper into him. You are second. Children adapt to survive. Some become louder. Some disappear. The younger brother chose disappearance. And in that silence, he learned to crave approval, especially from the person who withheld it most. The older brother noticed. People like him always do. They don't need to be taught how to manipulate. They discover it the way others discover humor or music. Instinctively. The dare wasn't impulsive. It was carefully framed. Wear it, he said. What, are you scared? Don't be chicken. 2 words that attacked the younger brother's deepest fear. That he was weak, invisible, replaceable. The shirt wasn't about shock. It was about submission. If he refused, he'd confirm the story told about him his whole life. If he wore it, he'd prove loyalty. Either way, the older brother won. At first, the fallout went exactly as planned. Mark's daughter exploded with anger, directed not at her boyfriend, but at her father. She accused him of being controlling, of overreacting, of humiliating someone she loved. And that reaction made sense. When emotions are high, loyalty blinds us. But lies don't survive pressure. Late-night phone calls, long silences, words that stumbled over each other. Eventually, the truth slipped out. The dare, the insults, the manipulation. And suddenly, the boy didn't look like a rebel. He looked like what he was, a pawn. This wasn't a mistake. It was betrayal, designed by someone who believed consequences were for other people. Someone protected by reputation, by status, by years of unchallenged dominance. The internet has a strange way of finishing unfinished stories. Mark didn't want revenge. He wanted clarity. So he posted the story online. No names, no embellishment, just the facts. And one question, was I wrong? He didn't realize that the post would find its way home. Because while the boyfriend sat at his parents' house, struggling to explain himself, his mother was scrolling. She stopped mid-swipe. Read the post. Read it again. And again. A cold recognition settled in her chest. She looked at her son, then back at the screen, and understood something devastating. The internet wasn't mocking a stranger. It was mocking her family. But instead of reacting emotionally, she did something rare. She listened. She separated behavior from character. She identified the source. And then, she acted. She understood the younger son wasn't malicious. He was malleable. So she redirected her focus to the architect, the older brother. She walked into his room while he was out. Opened the closet. Designer labels. Carefully arranged outfits. Clothes chosen not for comfort, but for perception. She removed them all. Every symbol of status. Every shortcut to admiration. In their place, 8 neon pink t-shirts. Cheap. Impossible to ignore. These were now his uniform. His allowance vanished. His privileges disappeared. And for the first time, he became visible for the wrong reasons. People stared. People laughed. And no amount of charm could rewrite reality. This story isn't about a shirt. It's about power. 3 psychological principles explain everything. First, narcissistic injury. When someone builds identity on superiority, any shift in attention feels like a threat. Sabotage becomes self-defense. Second, restorative justice. Punishment alone doesn't teach empathy. Experience does. The pink shirts force perspective. Third, boundary enforcement. Mark didn't debate respect. He required it. That single decision changed the trajectory of the story. And that's the lesson. Strength isn't proving you're fearless. It's knowing when to walk away. Because when you play games with dignity, you don't control the outcome.